Oh, Morgan, good to have you with us, sir. So we got a lot to talk about today. Let's start with the Epstein files. What's going on there?
Well, I mean, there's still some concern that the resolution may have been too broad, but the American people wanted it all released, and both the House and the Senate have now voted to do so. So it just requires the president's signature. I don't know if he's signed it yet or not, but it should be getting to him shortly, sometime later this week or first of next week, and then all the files will be released without any questions. It'll all be out there.
Define files. Like when I say the Epstein files, you're a lawyer. Define what that means. Like what files?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, the people have gotten so, worked up. They think there's something there. I don't think there is. I mean, we found some interesting things. There's no question that have already been released through the process that was going on. But that said, it would be, grand jury testimony, emails, all kinds of documents. There are a few exceptions out there, but all kinds of documents that have anything to do with Epstein. And of course, there'll be a lot of misrepresentation. It's fascinating, and you'll love this. In Rules the other night, one of the Democrat members said, "Well, by golly, Trump has been mentioned, I forget the exact number, like 1,105 times in the texts that have been released. Of course, this is before we passed the resolution." And they failed to mention that a significant number of those text messages or emails were Epstein saying he didn't like Trump. But they counted them, trying to make it sound like, he's all through the files. Well, yeah, it appears that Epstein had Trump derangement syndrome and was constantly bashing him. Well, yeah, that means you're out there. But, just because I mentioned somebody in my text doesn't mean that means I'm involved with them. And in this case, a lot of the texts show that he and Epstein did not get along. Exactly opposite of what the narrative is the Democrats have been trying to portray. But hopefully this will put it all to rest. Everybody get out there and look at it and have an opportunity to see, and it's fascinating.
What if big name? What if big name, big power Democrats were implicated in this? They're the ones that kept saying it was Trump. What if some of them, like you see what happened to Larry Summers? Not good, right? Kind of embarrassing. Whatever he was doing. But now he's like resigning from different things, spokesperson for this or that. But what if some big names Democrats are here involved in a way that's not very nice? Then what are they going to do?
Well, it's interesting. It's very interesting because there will be, I don't think there'll be elected officials. I'm not saying that, but there will be some likely, and I haven't seen them. This is based on speculation and some information from other members who may have seen glimpses of things. But there will be some Democrat donors and perhaps some celebrities who are caught up in this.
Well, my position on this whole thing from the beginning is if you broke the law, if you were abusing minor children, there's all, you can't do that. There's laws and you should be held accountable for that. So we'll see what happens going forward. I'm just anxious to put this whole episode behind us. It has been a major distraction. And your colleague, Marjorie Taylor Greene, you don't have to comment on this, but I'm going to ask you if you'd like to. Her comments yesterday inferring President Trump was traitorous, I really thought were crossing the Rubicon. What was your reaction to that?
Well, we have a number of members who often say things that are overblown, exaggerated, etc. And sometimes people say things when they're upset or they're mad or they're frustrated or they're worried about their upcoming election that they might later regret having said, or in a calmer moment going, probably went a little too far. I don't know what Marjorie's thinking on that. I've always gotten along with her, but then we don't move in the same circles at this point in time.
That's a really good answer. That's really good. You're good. Okay, I'll take that. I'll buy that 100%. Okay, let's move on. So you were the first one to bring up to me that the Obamacare subsidy and the Obamacare re-enrollment, that you had to put a $5 re-enrollment fee on it because you had phantom people on it that are not really taking advantage of it. They either went on to another insurance, or they're getting Medicare, is it right? Medicare like me, right? They got to be senior citizens, or they got their own insurance, or they're deceased, but they're still on the rolls, and the money is still going to the insurance companies. But the insurance companies are happy to get it because the people they're representing through that money are phantom, and they never put a claim in, so they just get the money. I mean, it's absurd beyond belief when you put it in those terms. And now I just had Phil Klein mention that, saying that it would eliminate 20% of the fraud. Is that a fair number, or 20% of the money going out?
That is correct. That is a correct number. I mean, you know, if we finally implement it, it might only be 18.5. It might be 21.5, but 20% is pretty much what everybody agrees on, are the shadow enrollees. And, you know, it's why it's sometimes hard to figure out what people are thinking. The Democrats just want a clean extension for 3 years. And while I don't favor that under any circumstance, at the very least, you'd think they'd clean up the program and have some program to deal with the shadow enrollees, because all we're doing is giving that money to the insurance company. So we can argue about philosophically whether or not we should continue the premium, the enhanced premium tax credits that were a short-term program put together by the Democrats. We can talk about that philosophically, but from an implementation standpoint alone, there's one quick fix. There's some other little ones, but there's one quick fix that saves you 20% of the program right away without affecting a single, not one American family would be impacted by that. And it's really not, I hate to say this. I mean, they haven't jumped up and down and said, oh, this is a mistake. But the insurance companies aren't committing fraud per se. They know there's a shadow element, but based on the way the system is set up, they have no way of finding out either. So it's not like they know that Morgan Griffith or John Fredericks is receiving this money in Pennsylvania and has since gotten a different policy in D.C. or West Virginia. That it's not that they know that. They have not a clue, because the way the program works, once you're enrolled, you're automatically re-enrolled unless you as an individual take affirmative action to notify the insurance company that you've got a different plan. Well, nobody stops it. If you get on a new plan, when you joined up on Medicare, you didn't think, well, I need to send a letter to my insurance company to tell them I no longer want their insurance, because you're probably paying a fee and you just don't pay the fee.
Bingo.
That's how they normally find out.
Right.
So in the enhanced premium tax credits, what the Democrats said was you're automatically re-enrolled, and there is no fee for the vast majority of people who are participating in that, or for a significant number of people participating in that. And as a result, based on statistics, over time, it is usual that in an insurance policy, the insurance company will have a family or an individual that does not file a claim about 15% of the time. With the premium, in the enhanced premium tax credits, we find it's 35%, and that's where that 20% number comes from. It's a pretty good statistical number. You normally over decades have a 15% no claim, and now with this program, you have a 35% no claim.
Because
there's 20% of those people out there don't exist, right?
You're not getting a claim because they don't exist, but you're getting the money. So the way you outlined this, the shadow enrollees, is perfect, and it's not the insurance company's fault, but they're not going to jump up and down and try to stop it because they're getting the money. So, I mean, it's just the way the world works, right? But that would be an easy fix. And like you said, it impacts no families. It impacts no one's zero zilch. The other thing is there's got to be an income cap. And we got families making $500,000 that are getting a subsidy. I mean, come on, man. It's stop, right? So that's ridiculous in and of itself. And so that cap needs to be hard, $1.20, 25, or, whatever you guys decide on. But we've talked about this before. There absolutely needs to be a cap. And hopefully you guys will get there. President Trump says, well, let's take the money and give it directly to the families affected. I don't necessarily agree with that, because here's what's going to happen. There's some families going to need that money for other stuff. They're going to spend it, which is fine. Then they can't afford their insurance. Then they lose their insurance, but they got the money. Then they go to the emergency room. That drives indigent care. Then that's just more tax burden. And then they don't have insurance. I understand the concept, give the money directly to the people. Always a better concept than giving it to insurance companies. But my fear is that it doesn't translate into buying the policy. I mean, am I off on that? That's my fear.
No, you're not off. And let's do some real world health policy here real quick.
Real world.
I speak only for myself. I don't speak for
Yes,
the committee or the rest of the Republicans. I only speak for me. I think there's a way to make Trump's plan work. I think we're going to have to thread the needle carefully. It's going to take time. If we try to throw something together between now and the end of the year, we are not going to get it right. We're not going to get close to right. We're going to screw it up big time. Now, I think, and I'll tell you how I think we can fix that plan, but I think in the short run, for those families who are right at the 400% of poverty line, up to a certain number, 200 or 250,000. So you're talking 106 for 3, 124 roughly for a family of 4. Those families are going to get hit with a huge increase in their insurance because they don't understand how the enhanced premium tax credit system worked. All they know is all of a sudden they're getting a bigger bill. We need to fix that at least short term. There's things you can do. You can do grandfathering, and you can say there's an income cap at the higher levels. But those people in that area just above, they haven't planned to pay that extra insurance in 2026. And even though philosophically they probably ought to, most of us don't think and pay attention to what the federal government's doing, and then all of a sudden, we get a huge increase we hadn't planned for because it's been going on now for 5 years. So I think we have to do something in the short term, and then that buys us the time. If we take care of the 20%, do a couple other things, and then that buys us the time to figure out. Now, here's how I would change Trump's plan if I were in charge of everything. And even though I've gained some seniority, I'm still not in charge of everything. I would say if you want to give the money directly to the people, give them a voucher to purchase insurance. That creates competition in the marketplace. And if you have money left over, you can then put that money after you've acquired the insurance into an FSA. That creates competition. It makes the insurance companies look at coming up with products that will enhance people to come to them. It gets the consumer, and some will just spend the money, buy the insurance, and that's fine. But a certain percentage of the consumers, Ann would do this. Ann Fredericks is going to be looking to figure out a way that we might be able to throw another, instead of just taking the money and buying the regular insurance, we might be able to figure out a way that we can take the money and save $200 and put that extra $200 in our FSA, which then can help pay for copays on something else that we have going on. Even though we have the insurance, we still have copays and deductibles, and that $200 could then be used for that. So if you create a voucher system, now you can't do this between now and the end of the year effectively, in my opinion. Somebody puts a bill in front of me that says this is how we're going to do it. No, I could be wrong. But if you do it that way, then you can have Trump's plan that it actually goes to the families and not directly to the insurance companies. And the families have say in what they're doing. They can figure out what plan works best for their family, and we can move forward. But there's lots of good ideas out there. Reinsurance, hidden insurance for people with pre-existing conditions. There's a lot of good plans out there. But if we think we're going to reach a consensus in 6 weeks and get it passed and have it implemented and ready to go for January. I mean, maybe I've gotten too skeptical, but I just don't see how we can get that done. So, notwithstanding the president saying that he doesn't want to sign off on any enhanced or premium enhanced tax credits bill, any kind of an extension, I think we have to do something in the short run. I mean, even Senator from West Virginia said maybe 6 months instead of a full year. I'm not for extending it without fixing the shadow enrollee problem, but because of the government shutdowns the Democrats brought on, we don't have time to hammer this bad boy out. And the American people don't understand all of this, and I'm not saying they should. This is for us to hammer out and study and do our jobs here in Congress. I just don't believe that we can get it done by the end of the year.
Hang on. Mike.
Hang on.
Yeah.
I'm hanging.
Listen, I agree with you 110%. I love the voucher idea. You must have talked to my wife, Ann, in the past couple of days. That's exactly what she would do. She would shop it and try to save $200 and put that in the FSA. There's no doubt about it. The voucher makes sense, makes 100% sense. I love that idea better than just giving cash, because I think then because the object is you want people to get insurance. You want the marketplace to be competitive, but you want to be sure that people have insurance, because if they don't, you end up paying for it anyway, because if you go to the hospital, they got to take care of you. The whole thing is absurd if you just don't have insurance. So I love that idea. You're also right about the non-automatic enrollees, and you're also 100% correct on you can't do this in 3 weeks before Christmas. I mean, and I tell you, I'll say this again, what infuriated me is a couple of the U.S. senators who came out and said, hey, I have this elaborate plan. Look at me, Rick Scott, Florida. I think Ron Johnson, maybe somebody else. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. It's Thanksgiving. If you had this plan, this should have been unveiled in February, not in December when you got, 21 days and a shotgun to your head. Made no sense to me. So I like your plan. And I think that the tax credit should get extended, put the non-enrollees in, put the $5 thing in, get the 20% out, and cap the income and go from there. And then you'll have 12 months, and I'm not for 6 because you're going to go through the same thing. Why do it for 6 so you have to deal with it in the midterms? That's even stupider, right? Do it for 12 months, get the midterms behind you, and that'll give you guys basically 12 months to work on an alternative and present that during the campaign. Does that not make sense?
Well, it makes sense to me, and I do believe I think we have a deadline of the end of the year to fix the enhanced premium tax issue, and then I think we have another deadline that is somewhere in the summer. Some have suggested Memorial Day, others have suggested 4th of July, but somewhere before we get into full campaign swing in August, although we're starting, I mean, we never get out of campaign swing anymore. But before we get into the full swing of the campaigns, we need to have our plan on the table, and we need to push it through and get it passed so the American people know that we're doing what they want us to do, and that is try to fix this problem. And it is interesting. Democrats want to say this is a Republican-made problem. Oh, my goodness. You know what my colleagues were saying when they passed Obamacare? I know we were looking at some quotes yesterday from one of my mentors, gentleman from Texas, who was later chairman of the Health Subcommittee, Dr. Burgess. And as early as 2013, he was saying, this whole thing is going to make prices go up. And they had a hearing, and 4 out of the 5 witnesses, or 3 out of the 4, I forget which now, but all but one witness said, yeah, there's no way the Obamacare system, the so-called Affordable Care Act, is going to do anything but make insurance prices go up, because there's no incentive for the insurance companies to try to keep their prices lower. They just know they'll get more money from the government, or they'll get more subsidy one way or another, and so there's no incentive for them to lower their prices. And the Democrats responded by saying the Republicans are just doing fear-mongering. They want people to think their insurance rates are going to go up, and in reality, what we're bringing is an affordability to it, and prices will level out or diminish or something along those lines. They're just not going to be skyrocketing like the Republicans say. Well, it's 12 years later. We've never had a reduction in insurance prices, and they're skyrocketing. Huh. That's what Republicans said when Obamacare was passed and when it was new. This is not going to solve that problem. It's going to make it worse. And that's exactly what's happening.
It was a lie from the beginning. It was about taking over. It was about government taking over health insurance, which is part of the whole Obama plan, which was bigger government, open borders, get 30 million people in, take over, never lose an election, government controls everything. Everything that Obama tried to do was towards one aim, and that was a one-party system. And if Harris had won, he would have been there. I mean, this is how scary this whole thing is. Hold the music, Tyler. I want to ask the congressman one more question. We're with Morgan Griffith, Republican Congressman, Freedom Caucus member, 9th District of Virginia, might be last man standing, where he will get 99.9% of every vote forever in the 9th District, because they're going to draw all the Trump voters and all the conservatives into the 9th. That's it. That's where they'll all be. They're going to draw every Democrat out. They'll put Blacksburg in some other district. I'm telling you, look at the maps. Now, we got to defeat the referendum. It's going to get tough. I talked to some people. They're looking at putting together a good governance coalition. Okay. Good governance. Right. Okay. Got it. That's really going to move the needle in the environment you got right now in Virginia. Having said that, how do we beat this thing legally? Is there any chance at all?
Yes, there is a chance legally. I think there was not an intervening election. If the judges are following the letter of the law, and certainly the spirit as well, that the election had already started, therefore there was no intervening election for nearly a million voters when the matter was passed, and hundreds of thousands, more than 500,000, had voted before the Democrats even announced they were going to try to hold a special session to change the Constitution. I think that's a legal problem, and there's some spin-off theories based on that. I then think that you have all kinds of issues in the courts with the timing, so they're going to have to completely rearrange the election schedule. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Democrats to get this done in 2026. Now, legally, I think they could line it up for 2028 fairly effectively. But for the 2026 elections, I think it's going to be very difficult to get the courts to make a decision on the legal process, and then to make a decision as to whether or not the maps are legal. We have a couple of challenges there. Some of them will be federal. And when I say we, I'm talking about the collectively Virginians. And some of them will be in the state courts, because the districts have to be communities of interest and contiguous. When you look at some of the maps that have been out there, and the Democrats in the legislature have not put out any map, so this is not an attack on their particular maps, because nobody's seen those yet. But when you look at the proposed maps that are floating around, some of them, I mean, the districts don't make any sense, and they're clearly not contiguous. Now, one that I find fascinating creates a new Democrat district by connecting Harrisonburg, and you travel over Route 33 and you go over into Madison County and come down into Charlottesville. Then you drop down from Charlottesville. You circle around because you don't want Liberty. You circle around Liberty, and you then you come through the Roanoke Valley and tie in Blacksburg and Radford.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
Yeah, and so you got your district. Basically, you can claim communities of interest because you just picked up the state, four of the state's larger public universities: Radford, Virginia Tech, Charlottesville with UVA, and JMU in Harrisonburg. Now, those communities are not anywhere near contiguous, but you can make that argument. I think that's a stretch, and I think that's challengeable under the Virginia Constitution. And then you have issues. Now, the Supreme Court's got to decide on the Voting Rights Act, and they may decide that there's no more preclearance, or that the racial requirements of prior Supreme Courts are invalid, in which case that's no longer an issue. But if that's still an issue, that's challengeable in the federal courts. And likewise, the whole timing issue, I think, is challengeable in the federal courts when you realize that any candidate running in any congressional district will have to have gotten their paperwork filed with the State Board of Elections before the vote takes place on giving the state legislature the power to redraw the lines. So no matter what they do, we will all have had to file, both challengers and incumbents will all have had to have filed, paid our money, put in a 1,000 valid signatures of registered voters in the old lines before the vote to change the lines ever takes place. And I think the timing of all this is going to be very difficult to get it done in 2026.
Well, from your lips to God's and judges' ears, let's hope that you're right, because defeating the ballot referendum is going to be a tough order, especially the direction I've seen it going, which is, a coalition of good governance. Somebody said, well, the first thing we're going to do is do a poll. I'm sorry. We just had a poll. Spanberger won by 15. Like that. That's the only poll I need. Like, we didn't get our voters out. That's the other poll I got. Like, they wouldn't turn out. So I think it's a tall order. But listen, you're a country lawyer. You kind of get this stuff. I like what you say, and let's hope for the best. Maybe the timing is not there. And I know all the lawsuits will get filed. But yeah, I mean, just what you said, you got to file all your paperwork to run for office for maps that might not exist. Pay your fee, and then, well, that's not the right map. I mean, it's nuts. What they're doing is crazy. But look, we've seen it. You're fighting a party that is determined to take power, and they'll do it by, in the words of Malcolm X, who I studied, as you know, at great length as a young man, whatever means necessary. That's what the Democrats are doing right now for power. Anybody that doesn't understand that needs to study Malcolm X, towering figure in history. Morgan, thanks for being with us. You can follow Morgan Griffith, griffith.house.gov, griffith.house.gov. From Morgan's lips to God's ears, we'll survive this debacle going on in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Duke coming up. We'll be right back. Whitey in the house.